Slurped it up, my G's. Hello, how are you guys doing? Hope you're doing great. Today I'm just going to do a really short little quick tutorial about snare. Snare sidechaining from either a sub bass or mid bass. And should you do it? Do you need to do it? Now the main thing that you guys always need to pay attention to is there a conflict between these two particular elements, you know? So that's really the key thing, and you can always figure out what to sidechain and how much to sidechain it by just by seeing in the frequency spectrum how much of a conflict there is, you know. So I've got this loop here. Let's do it with this normal bass here first, and I've got another version just with a sub. Now if I've just got a sub in there, for example, and I just want to treat the sub on its own, because sometimes you're sub separate, or sometimes you're doing a track that's just a bit of sub for a moment or something, you know, whatever. You definitely want to sidechain that to your kick. There's a no-brainer, right? The sub and the kick, absolute no-brainer. I've got a lovely little multi-pass compressor, just taking out all the low end of the sub to give the kick more breathing space, you know, because without it, it's nowhere near as clear, because the weight of the kick doesn't cut through the sub, and we need that to happen, right? So that's obvious. We all know that. But next, what about the snare for that? Have I got to sidechain the sub to the sub to the snare? And when you really listen to the snare on its own. Is it cutting through? Is it causing any mud? And usually it shouldn't, okay? But there's times when your snare might have a bit of rumble in that doesn't need to be in there. So in this snare, for example, if I just take a look at the snare on its own, it's got all this weird rumble down here, but the snare fundamental's not really until about 400 or so. Like, that's the snare basically there. All that stuff in before was just destroying the headroom of the mix and making a lot of problems for the sub. So make sure you take all that rumble out of your snare that doesn't need to be in it. Once you've done that, now if I look at my snare on span, there's really nothing below 400 really anyway. And some snares will be lower, they'll be around 300 or 200, you know, lower, more punchy snare. This is quite a rim-shotty one, but you can have snares around 200 Hertz, absolutely fine, no problem. But if you look at your sub, where that's sitting, right, it's really, it kind of finishes already about 150 or 200, you know. So there's no actual overlap in the frequency area, and you can kind of hear that when you play them together. Like, it sounds fine together. But if I were to add a snare sidechain to the sub, for example, okay, now I've got a sidechain on the sub from the snare. Turn it off again. I ended up weakening the sub volume like a lot for no reason, and it's really important, especially in drum and bass, to have a really powerful sub, and you only want to dip the parts of the sub out when you have to, and with the kick you kind of have to, but with the snare you don't really need to, so it's a bit of a waste of time. So my answer is 99.9% of the time, and please remember to always use your ears and make your own decisions, but for me, at least 90% of the time, I wouldn't really ever sidechain my snare to my sub, but I will make sure I remove any rumble from the snare, okay? But what about your main bass? And what about if you've got, you know, sub within your main bass, like I do in this one? Here's like what I'd typically normally go for in a track, like a full-on bass with sub and mid and everything all in one. And in this case, do I want to sidechain my snare? Yeah, definitely, because it's got a lot of these frequencies that are fighting with the snare. It's like around this 400 to 1K area. That's the part that I want to then solve the conflict between, okay? So on my bass here, I'll just, you know, I can hear the snares cutting through well, but it's just going to sound even better and cleaner when I take a little bit, do a little bit more to let that snare come through. So a lovely little sidechain here, multi-band again. Just by ear, always picking that sort of mid-range area where there's quite a lot of conflict. Alright, lovely. So it cuts through a lot nicer there now. Okay, so really it's always simple, as I mentioned on the previous sort of sidechaining video. Are there conflicts between two particular elements? And you should try to solve them. And does it sound better? And often cases it will, but if there's no conflict, for example, like I did at the beginning, just sub with snare, there's not really a conflict there, so I can just let them ride together without the sidechain. But in this one, with the mid bass and everything in it, it sounds better when I do a multi-band sidechain on there. So no one actually asked me to make this video, but it's been on my mind for a while, because I always talk about kick drums, and because kick sidechains are like really the most important, But it is worth addressing the snare sidechain as well, because I do sidechain a lot of things to the snare, but it's usually a lot more subtle. It's not as dramatic as the kick drum. Because the snare's higher up in the frequency spectrum, it's not as imperative as getting it perfect as it is with the kick, because that's really the foundation of the low end, But still definitely worth sidechaining some things to your snare. And yeah, as I showed you here, with the sub, don't really worry. With a bass that has got a lot of mid in, then I would worry a little bit. But it is a subtle sidechain at the end of the day. Like, it still sounded okay without it, but I usually do it just for extra clarity. So anyway, that's my little video today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope it helps someone out. May I remind you that if you want to have one-on-one lessons with me and dive deeper into mixdown work or other things, it's the best way to learn, really, because there's only so much I can, monologue at you from one side of the computer without having you on the other end, where we can really dive in deep together on one of your tracks or whatever you want to work on. So hit me up for lessons. Just you can email me if you've got questions, but honestly, just feel free to book via the links below. And I can't really express enough how much of the best way it is for you to learn if you're looking to just like really take your production to the next level, like quickly, and get over all those hurdles and go straight into making absolute bangers. I'll be happy to help you do that. Anyway, a couple more things. You guys want any presets? I've got loads on my website: Vital, Faceplant, and Current. All really, really great packs. The newer ones, especially the new Current pack, is my favourite. But for those of you who don't have that yet, don't worry. I'm still just loads of Vital and Faceplant packs, and I'm doing some more of those in the future as well. And one more thing as well: mixing and mastering. You won't really get a good sound with AI, in my opinion. You should use a mastering engineer if you're self-releasing, or if you're serious about putting your music out there. I would highly recommend getting it mastered, if not by me, then by another professional in the industry. But I have quite decent rates. If you ever want a track done, just email me for a price at info@artifactmusic.com. And that's about it. Oh yeah, it wasn't really. I have one more thing to tell you about. My Discord community is absolutely amazing. The people in there are so kind, and if you're not quite up for the one-on-one mentorship, but you just want feedback on your tracks and you want people that you can trust to put you in the right direction, you could try and tell ChatGPT what your track sounds like, but really you need human ears to give you that real feedback that's going to help. But the people in my Discord are absolutely there to give you some great feedback as well, especially when I'm not around. And so come along and join in there to get the hive mind feedback. And remember, my Discord I've curated it for years, and so I literally have a group of the nicest people in the world. I'm so proud of it. It's just so amazing. So if you do join us, make sure, or we hope that you're also a kind individual, but I'm sure you are, because most of you guys here on the channel are. So you're absolute legends anyway. Thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe if you're new, and more from me soon. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Ciao, ciao.